That's
We may
great.
not even just, for the sake of this, we'll be doing one video, but
Yeah.
we may take other content that you're talking
Should
about
go a
and make
little
a
wider. I
second
think
one
you
out
can
of
go
the
wider.
other 28 minutes. So there'll be a lot to pull from.
Sure.
Yeah, that's better. Give them a little more headroom. There you go. That's great.
So maybe if you could start off by introducing yourself and saying, what kind of things you talk about in your billing sessions, and
Sure.
then maybe get into.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe introduce yourself first.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Bannock. I'm a family doctor located in Toronto. I often speak on different things in terms of billing, practice setup, and practice efficiency. So today I was just hoping to take some time to run through a few of these things with you guys.
So why is billing knowledge important for physicians?
Billing knowledge is extremely important for physicians. We spend our day caring for patients and providing a lot of services that a lot of doctors often forget to bill for. These are things that we already do for our patients, and it's extremely important that we remember when billing to actually account for them. Common things doctors might forget to bill for on an everyday basis might be flu shots or other immunizations. We might forget to bill for forms or other things that really do increase revenue when we remember to bill for them.
What are some common gaps in care versus billings? You can rephrase that how you like.
What were you, with that you're getting at?
This says diabetes, smoking.
So those
well-being
refer to
visits.
specific, I mean, I can
Oh, they
mention
don't-
them,
okay.
because then there's generally slides on each of those things. So there's like 6 different slides. I can briefly mention them if you want.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we just briefly mention them?
Okay. There are quite a few codes that family doctors often forget to account for and to bill for when we're seeing our patients. These common codes are things for diabetes, congestive heart failure, smoking, as well as 18-month well baby assessments. Often these codes, family doctors are unaware that there are special codes to be billed at these visits that are different from the regular codes we bill on an everyday basis. And I encourage everyone to either come to one of our in-person sessions or go to the OMA website, and you can learn a lot more about billing these codes.
Right. How about uninsured fees? Is that the same thing?
No. Okay. One of the most important topics that I speak about is uninsured billing fees. A lot of family physicians are uncomfortable with the concept of uninsured billings, especially younger doctors who may have assumed a practice from an older retired physician. Younger doctors will often come to me and say, how do I start incorporating uninsured fees into my practice? Why is it important to incorporate uninsured fees into our practice? These are things that we do on an everyday basis that patients ask us for, and by providing these uninsured services, we're actually helping our patients. Whether it be sick notes, insurance forms, school forms, work forms, these are all things that our patients need in order to conduct their daily lives, but they actually take up a significant amount of our time during the day. Let's take, for example, sick notes. You might think that it only takes you a minute or two to write a sick note, but let's actually boil it down. You're done with your actual visit for the day. You may have even signed off your note or actually closed your paper chart if you still use paper charts. And then the patient asks you for a note. You have to discuss why they need to be off work, the dates that they were off work, the reason they're off work. Go back into their chart, make an electronic receipt, write up the note, print it out, hand it to the patient. We're talking probably about 5 minutes of our time. Again, one could argue, so what's 5 minutes? Why do I really need to charge for 5 minutes of my time? I've already been paid for the visit. Well, when you think about the fact that I probably spend on average, or I would say on minimum, let's say 30 minutes a day on these uninsured services, between sick notes or school forms or work forms, on a 5-day work week, that would be 2.5 hours of time that if I'm not billing for, that I can't account for. I don't know any accountant or lawyer or dentist who would work for free for 2.5 hours of their time. Also, I don't know anyone for that nature who would work for free for 2.5 hours of the time. Even the person who works at Starbucks or my receptionist doesn't want to come to work for 2.5 hours and not be paid for her time. On top of that, these uninsured fees really can add up. If you think about just taking sick notes for an example, let's have an average rate for a sick note of $20. If you think about 5 sick notes a week, and that's a pretty fair estimate, on average 1 a day, especially during cough and cold season, we're talking about $100 a week of revenue in sick notes that one would lose. If we round off about 50 work weeks a year, we're talking about $5,000 of revenue that we haven't captured just by saying, I'm not going to charge for sick notes. That's $5,000 a year to reinvest in your practice. Perhaps you're going to buy new office equipment. Perhaps you're going to take a vacation. Perhaps you're going to use that for your staff's holiday bonus. Whatever you want to use that revenue for, that's important revenue that we do have to capture.
We could do a segment just on sick notes.
All right, let's take a breath for a sec.
Yeah. What young physicians
No, that's not gonna
miss about that? I'm thinking about asking you what young physicians starting off,
Why they don't do it or what difficulties they come up with.
or yeah, what are the common difficulties or misconceptions that they have about billing in
Uninsured
general?
about billing in general or uninsured services, because that's a big one.
That uninsured services is the big one? Okay, so maybe we could frame the question by saying, if I asked you what is one of the most common areas of difficulty for, whatever word I'm looking for young physicians, of misinformation, maybe you could say.
It's not misinformation,
sorry.
it's difficulty with patient populations who are set in their ways. I'll
Okay, so you get where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's interesting.
Sure.
It's not specifically directed at young physicians, but it's one of the areas that we're looking
yeah,
at. So.
for any physician.
Yeah.
We're rolling.
Go for it.
So, I've been asked in the past, how do I all of a sudden start charging for uninsured fees if it's either something that I haven't done before or perhaps
Sorry,
I'm
that's
new.
old. Sorry. We're just gonna plane something we're passing.
Our truck is going by?
Yeah, just give it a sec.
Okay.
There we go.
Laura.
So yeah, let's just start from the beginning. Yeah, just from that part.
Okay.
Yeah. Not the entire beginning.
I've often been asked, how do I start charging for uninsured services if this isn't something my office has done before? Perhaps I've decided that it's time to start charging for uninsured services. Perhaps I'm a new physician joining this practice and I would like to institute this. So how do I go about doing it? Especially since the first time I tried to do it, the patients got upset with me. So I think the key here is having information displayed in your waiting room and also explaining to patients. It's really important to first explain before any uninsured services are provided that there will be a charge and why we have to charge for it. So a common phrase I use is, oh, unfortunately sick notes aren't covered by OHIP. There would be a charge for taking care of the sick note. Because it does take up, staff time, administrative time. I do have to sit down and write the note for you or write the form if we're discussing a form. Sometimes I've had a patient reply back to me, well, how come you're charging for it? My last doctor didn't charge for it, or doesn't OHIP pay for it? Aren't they already paying you to be here today? So I often explain, well, OHIP has paid me to see you today. They've paid me to make sure that everything's okay, to talk about your cough or your back pain, but unfortunately this paperwork is just for your insurance company, so OHIP doesn't allow me to bill it to OHIP. I do have to bill it to you directly, because as you can tell, we have to sit here for another few minutes. We're gonna have to go through all this information, and it does actually take up quite a bit of time during my day to go through this. Again, the key that I explain to new physicians, or any physician for that matter, is to let patients know beforehand. So we do need to post signs in our waiting rooms, even signs in all of the exam rooms, with a common list of uninsured fees, as well as reminding patients before we actually provide the service that there's going to be a charge for the uninsured service. Another important thing with uninsured services is to collect payment at the time of service. So patients should understand that at the time that we write the sick note or fill in the insurance paperwork for them, they will be expected to pay with our staff up at the front. And that does make it easier because as physicians, our day should be spent helping patients, taking care of patients, and I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to be a bill collector. So it's a lot easier if patients understand from the get-go that at the time that we do the work, they're going to be settling the account with my staff up at the front before they leave for the day.
So that brings us into staff. So how can your staff or your fellow colleagues support you in the billing process?
So, okay.
Or however you'd like to phrase
And then
that.
we'll just take 1 sec.
Do you need some water or anything?
No, I'm okay.
Great.
You
You're
can
great.
start stuff again. Perfect. Ready to go?
Okay, so we're talking about how your staff and your colleagues can support you.
Frontline staff are extremely important when it comes to billing. They're the first point of contact for your patients. They help set office policy and explain office policies and procedures to your patients. Let's take, for example, a patient calling in for an uninsured service. Patient calls in and says, I need to have a driver's medical exam. I want to become a truck driver. Their first point of contact is my receptionist, and on the phone when she books them their appointment, she says, oh, if that's the reason you're coming in, this service is not covered by OHIP. The doctor can explain a little bit more about why it's not covered by OHIP, and she may even be able to give them the price over the phone if it's one of the common services that's requested, because she does have a price list. This way, before the patient even steps foot in my office, they know that there's going to be a charge for this uninsured service, so they're not upset when they're sitting in front of me and I take a look at the form and I explain to them that I can't do this and bill it to OHIP without charging them directly. This saves patients being upset for having traveled in for no reason. Similarly, even if a patient calls in and says, I'm sick, but I'm really coming in for a sick note, my frontline staff can also explain to them over the phone, sure, the doctor is more than happy to check you out for your cough. Again, just as a reminder, sick notes aren't covered by OHIP. And again, before they've even come to my office, they're aware that there is going to be a charge for the service instead of them showing up and being upset because they weren't told in advance. Even if we haven't told them on the phone beforehand because they haven't specified the reason that they're coming in, when they come into the front and they first give the health card to my receptionist, she can again inquire about the reason for the visit. And if third-party services do come up, she can explain to them again why they're not covered by OHIP. Similarly, even if it's only in the exam room with me that a patient mentions an uninsured service, I do explain to them about the uninsured service before I do it, but then I often send them to the front staff to actually go through the process of payment and further explain to them about the uninsured service and explaining again why we have to charge and why we cannot bill it to OHIP. My staff have done this numerous times and they're extremely great about explaining to patients why we can't bill certain things to OHIP, since patients often have a misconception that an OHIP card seems to be like just a free visa that we can swipe whenever we want to. So my staff have done a great job through information that I've provided them of explaining this to patients, and then when patients finally understand, I'm often ready then to see them and go over this information and forms with them.
We may not be able to use the swiping like a Visa card part, but
Probably not.
Okay, so
Do we
it's gonna-
about it.
Really?
With regard to day-to-day billing, I strongly encourage physicians to actually do their billing after every patient encounter. I find that we are actually able to capture all the appropriate billing codes if the patient visit is fresh in our memory. So we might actually see the patient, write our notes, and right after the patient visit, bill the code or bill the ear syringing, the flu shot. Perhaps we've done a urine test on the patient, and that way we haven't actually forgotten any of the billing we're supposed to do for the patient because we've done it on the spot. Another way that this helps is there's some codes that do require us to spend 20 minutes with the patient, and as per the schedule of benefits, we do have to document the start and stop times in our charts. If we're doing all of this at the time of the patient encounter, we're not going to forget to document start and stop times, and we're also going to realize that we are with the patient for the 20 minutes that we're required to be with them, and then to bill appropriately.
Do you have any particular knowledge about province to province, if there's a big differentiation between different billing codes if somebody moves from out of province? I'm actually wondering if you cover that.
So it's not, but your question is just in general,
Like if
because
I don't
they
know,
can
if
use,
it was advice for someone who's moving here from out of province.
like a doctor who's moving here.
Yes.
So there's different billing codes. You're not talking about a patient with someone with a health card from BC.
No. Oh, although okay, that might be.
They
the-
come here, we bill OHIP. Literally, we swipe the card, we bill OHIP.
Okay.
The regular codes.
Okay, so but I wondered for the sake of a physician who is moving.
Billing codes are completely different because they're province dependent.
Okay.
So they have to learn everything from the get-go. They have to learn what codes to bill, how much every code bills out on, and the rules, because the
Okay.
rules are Ontario only.
Okay.
So that's-
let's not get into the weeds on that one. I wonder about.
That's a 4-day presentation.
Right. Okay. So I wondered if you could speak to anything about the schedule of benefits, how often it comes out, where they can look for that.
Sure. One of
Sorry,
my
stop for a sec.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna
okay.
hold for that.
So we're talking about scheduled benefits.
As an experienced physician, you'd be surprised how often I actually refer to the schedule of benefits. There's a lot of codes that, like most physicians, we routinely bill on an everyday basis. But every once in a while, a code comes up that we know about, we're pretty sure it applies to this particular circumstance, but we can't remember either the exact details or perhaps even the exact billing code. That's when referring to the schedule of benefits comes in pretty handy. Some of you may remember when they used to send us yearly an blue binder with literally all the codes every year, and it would be a nice thick binder that physicians never want to refer to because they had to flip through it page by page. Conveniently now, there's actually a schedule of benefits located online. You don't even have to remember a URL. Just honestly Google Schedule of Benefits OHIP, and one of the first or second links that comes up is the Schedule of Benefits. When you click on it, it will actually bring up a PDF document that's over 700 pages. You might be saying to me, how is that more helpful than going through 700 pages in print? Well, the great news with the PDFs is they're pretty easy to search. A tip that I like to talk about is the Control F function. In any PDF document, if you hold down Control and F at the same time, a little box will appear, and that's the Find box. If you type the code that you want to look at in that little box and press Enter, it will pull up in every single circumstance from that schedule of benefits where that code applies. And it'll bring you directly to the part of the schedule of benefits you want to read to be able to refresh your memory on if you can actually bill that code for that patient that day.
I think we've got a lot of stuff here. If there's anything, frequently asked questions or things that you would want someone to know?
Well, I know you guys want me to refer to the OMA website, which I do in my talks, so I can...
We will, yeah. We'll definitely get you to
Oh.
do a, if you have further information, there's resources on the OMA website.
Well, no, there's like these handy booklets or whatever that you guys started to put together on a couple topics
Okay.
that I specifically have been referring people to the website, and I know that Steph said you guys like it because they're handy.
Let's go ahead and do that too. The OMA site is is in the process of a redesign.
But
so we
I
just
think
can't-
these things
yeah,
are still going to
that
be there.
They will exist. We just can't tell them specifically where. But so absolutely refer to that.
Okay.
So.
So let's just time out for a second.
Okay.
Okay, ready when you guys are.
Okay.
Some common areas that often confuse family doctors when it comes to billing are things like palliative care, home visits, as well as which things that we can actually delegate to third parties, such as nurses or other staff that we have. Honestly, you can come to one of my billing talks. We go through these things in depth at the billing talks, but another really handy tool is you can actually refer to the OMA website. In the past few months, they've put together a couple 3-4 page booklets, almost billing for dummies or billing for the inexperienced, where you can actually look and in 4 simple pages, it walks you through how to do home visits, what codes to bill, or how to do palliative care and what codes to bill. So instead of referring to the schedule of benefits that can be sometimes a little bit complicated to navigate if you're new to a whole topic, these are pretty handy booklets that you can find online, courtesy of the OMA, that will explain in depth how to do these things.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, you can edit out dummies, that's why I rephrased that.
That's perfect.
That's okay.
Just